Hey guys, for the first 22 minutes or so with Yohan, something went wrong with the video file of just that first 20 minutes. You won't see me. You won't see my face for the first 20 minutes, and then you get to see my ugly face after that. So it's a 2-hour episode. Enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, it's you put the grind in. Like whatever you put in, you get out is my thing. So, but it's good. But there's some days where it's long. Like for me, Thursdays are my longest day because Thursday it's either like 3 to 6.
Yep.
So 3 hours straight, and then I do 7 to 9.
7 to 9.
So then I get an hour break, but then I do my travel team.
How many teams do you have at Clarence right now?
2.
Okay. Dude.
So.
And then we haven't even gotten into like travel season yet.
Yeah, no, it's not even. We haven't even gotten since we're doing State Cup this year.
Okay.
So like, and our schedule, like FC Buffalo's schedule, they got so lucky. D'Annunzio got so lucky on his game. He's got his away game is us.
Okay.
And his home game is Syracuse and like Binghamton for one of his teams. So he's got 2 home games are the 2 far teams.
Yeah.
And then the away game is a Buffalo team.
Is that 2011s? 2010s?
So he's got 2 teams. We actually play him in I think both, but he's got a I think it's like a U15, U16, so 2009, 2010 team mix.
Okay.
And I think he has a 2012 team, I want to say. I'm not sure about that 100%.
Have you played them before?
I've played his 2010 team with my 2010-11 team with my 2012. They're like a year older.
Okay.
Played in indoor, and
you guys do?
they took it to us.
Okay.
To be fair, it's like technically they're good,
Yeah.
but and size
have
makes
a couple
huge. Yeah. And to be fair, Declan, fantastic player.
Yep. Declan and Grayson.
Did. Just fantastic,
Those two
yeah.
together are just.
And so I coached Declan in JV, and he just as a 7th grader just
He's a
balled
North
out.
kid?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So he balled out and so smart. Like his soccer IQ is, he probably picks it up from his dad and all
Yeah.
that. So that makes a big difference. But like we had with my 2012s, we had a game in Salin's last week or 2 weeks ago against the Lockport older team. Such a good game. We lost 2-1, but like size-wise, they had us.
What age group was that?
U13, U14. That's a mix at Salin's, and we were U13 and they're U14.
Okay.
But I'd rather lose.
Some of those Lockport teams are decent.
Yeah, I'd rather lose every single game if it's a close game.
Yeah.
Than win.
Because you're showing that you're in the right.
Yeah.
As long as you're competing.
I don't care. Like,
I just had this conversation with Rudy Pomper. Like if you are winning all your games and it's like 8-0, there's a problem. There's a basic problem.
True. And again,
you shouldn't lose every game.
I know. There's that 50-50 where it's like, if you lose every single game and it's close, it's like it's tough for the players, but it's like as an adult, it's like I'd rather have it so much. Like but there's nobody going to look at a U12, U13 kid. Like very rarely. I'll say very rarely. But like as a town team, there's no way. Like maybe flash
teams on the boys' side.
Yeah.
Even on the boys' side.
Like
the 2010 and the 20, not the 2011, but the 2010 and the 2009 ECNL boys we're out in Vegas.
Vegas, yeah.
And I'm like, there's not that many college coaches even looking at, let alone those graduation years, but boys in general. Maybe it's more to get into the MLS clubs.
Yeah, that's the only path I could say.
And it's like Carter Petrie and those guys. I mean, they get a little look. Cam Pierce, right?
I mean, they're great. They're fantastic players. So much better players than like I was, or probably you were. They're like crazy much better.
Oh yeah.
But it's just like the talent now is just so much better. And even like if you think at the college level now, after my first year at Buff State, it's like we had 10 or 11 internationals.
Is that how many? Yeah. How big was the roster?
We had a big roster. We had like 32 or 33.
Now, the 28 is not going to affect
for Division 3.
Division 3, right?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Which I don't know.
You guys are so good.
Yeah.
How? Like I asked one of the boys, I'm like, how is Buff State so good?
I mean, defensively, we were very, like, the players we had defensively were monsters. Like, our 2 center back, Tapiwa Mushanga and Salvatore Gomez. First of all, 2 international kids.
Yeah.
South Africa, Portuguese. Both 6'4".
How
both,
old are they?
They're both going into their senior year. So I want to say they're like 20.
Yeah.
But they're both fantastic players on the ball.
Right.
They're both physically dominant. And like, so first of all, that's huge when you have that kind of defense. I thought personally we had the best outside back in SUNYX. Okay. Now, there's one on Cortland that's very, very good. I don't know his name. Okay. He's a senior, but I scouted him, and he was fantastic. Mm-hmm. But I thought our outside back from Syracuse, Matthew Stasniak, probably butchering his name, but he was so underrated. Like, he really never lost his 1v1s. And, like, when I was doing film for, like, Buff State and looking, like, mismatch and all that, you could see, the outside back position was one where it's, like, it's not that strong. Because normally, players aren't getting recruited to go play outside back. Like, very rarely is a player, like, a lot of time it's a winger that's just not at the talent
or
and
a
just
forward, and they just convert them to outside back. Yep.
But, like, he seems like he was playing that forever. So, like, defensively, he was super sound, and then he had the physical capabilities to push up the field and make a threat there.
Are you going to do Buff State next year?
That's the plan. The plan is to do it again next year. I really, like, I'm learning so much right now.
Yeah.
So I think that's just the move, is just keep learning and all that, the next level. Again, I don't know if long-term college coach is, but I think right now what I learned from the college level, I can take on to the private, and on top of that to the travel. Could I be like, listen, right now you're not at the level. Like, I could tell my U16s be like, first of all, the mindset's not there. Nope. Second of all, just like, you're even fantastic.
The mindset to train is not there. That's the one thing that I do, that I pick up on a lot of these kids, is like, your mentality is not there, because you need to be a dog. Like, you need to. It's even crazy at the Division III. The good D3 levels are like, it's the same schedule. Yeah, it's the exact same schedule. I mean, there's not that much difference. No. I mean, what are they doing right now? I mean, they probably just started back up. They started back. So I just got a text from our head coach. We just got thing. It's like first of all, they got 4 like gym and like strength conditioning with our strength conditioning coach at 4 a week. That's already 4 a week. And then they got 3 training practices. Okay. They got the Wednesday they're going to be in here. And then they got the other 2 days futsal. When does that start in here? So next week, yeah. Sweet. So they're gonna be doing that, and like, they're just running it for the whole. And then once it's nice out, they're gonna go outdoor on the turf, and they're just gonna. That's awesome. Are you you're not gonna be here on Wednesdays? No. Because you're teaching still. Yeah. So that's the goal, is to end that. How much longer? I don't know. 2 years, hopefully. 2 years. Yeah. Benefits are nice, but it's just like. And again, it's just different. Like, it's just, like, I still, when I coach, it's still teaching kids in soccer. Like, absolutely. I love the kids and all that. It's just a different environment and different. Yeah, it's all that. The kids are different. Yeah. So when you would do film, are you're completely scout team, or do you self scout too and go over with individual players from your own team? So it wasn't to the point where the plan kind of in the beginning of the year is like, divide groups, defensive group, offensive group, but there's not that, like, it's like you said, the schedule's crazy. Yeah. Wednesday, Friday, Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesday, like, it's like the crazy schedule. So it's like the kids don't have, they still have to go to class. They're still student athletes. Yeah. So it was more like kind of like either on the bus or like 2-3 hours before, I would kind of take them apart and be like, hey, this is like, you're going to be facing this player. This is going to be that situation. So I did chat with them a little bit individually in groups, but overall it was like as a team, be like, this is what we need to look out for, this is tendencies, this is that. And the best example is if you look at like our film against Oswego. Okay. I think the final score was like 6-2 or like 7-2 or something against them. I don't remember exactly, but like they were doing the same thing over and over again. Like, we knew what they, like, we just set the trap, and it's like, when you already have an idea coming in, and if the coach doesn't change, like, you have an advantage there. Would you guys change solely on the opponent, or were you guys good enough to be like, they have to dictate to us? Or was it both sometimes, right? We had a system. We had our system. We had our passing patterns and all that, but our passing patterns were changed based on the opponent, based on the tendencies that we saw, either an outside back doing an outside mid or center mid, whatever. Coach would figure out the passing patterns just to change, and which that's the biggest thing that I probably saw at the college level is like,
when you hear, like, let's say the professional PEP system be like, hey, he has like players are in this set position doing this set thing, these set options, and like very structured.
Right.
Whereas normally soccer, you think it's like kind of free flowing, is whatever happens.
Right.
But like we have kind of like set plays that if everything works out, players know exactly what they're doing, which runs to make, and kind of do that, which was very cool to see at the next level. And like for our opponents, when we matched up against them, like depending on certain tendencies that we saw, whether the center mid kind of stayed true central or whether he would get sucked into the outside if we played it to our outside back, then we had different little kind of switching of patterns.
When you guys would train those patterns, are you guys doing it against live defense or passive defense or nobody?
No defense, then passive, and then like kind of full on. And again, when it's full on and they know what it's doing, it's not as good. But if they cheat or something, but again, what we would really stress is the team that's mimicking play the way their opponents. We would see so much film and be like, we need to play how they're playing, so it really kind of
it gives us a look of how they react.
Yeah, and the best thing is like with 34 players, you were able to do that. But to be fair, like we rarely had 34 players available.
Injuries
class and everything. Like we were probably rolling closer to like 27, 26 on a practice. So we lose.
So imagine what that's going to do to Division I with the 28
it's great.
player.
It doesn't make sense.
There's going to be some times when you might only have 18 players at training or 20 players at training. That's crazy.
And I think the biggest thing I saw too from the college level is like, first of all, the way we recruit and all that. JUCO's big.
Yeah.
JUCO's huge. Which is very, like, if you're a high schooler coming out and you're competing against kids that have played college soccer for 2 years and are 2 years older than you, like, you better be a special player coming out of high school.
Right.
And it's like,
that's what I'm saying. Like, why are we going to Vegas when these kids are not, unless you're special, you are not getting, you're not getting these opportunities.
And the next thing is, like, we talked about how many internationals there are.
Yeah.
Division I, you know, the programs have money to give out to the players, scholarships.
Yeah.
Division III, it's not like that. It's we can find different academic scholarships that they can fit and different things they can fit. You know, it's not straight sports. It's just like, can we find something that works for him? But like internationals have their own like scholarship. Like international scholarships are a thing in the college thing. Not like for sports, but like international, just
being a student.
Yeah. So it's like if the school itself offers this much for international kids, I'm thinking at the D1 level, like if they can get this much off just for being international, they can save money and like, you know, disperse it out. So like internationals have such an advantage.
Yeah.
Which was like, because I don't remember exactly what the scholarship is, but there's a specific scholarship just for like international students.
Did you hear that? And that along with the 28 rule, they're changing the JUCO rule too, where JUCO years aren't going to count against your eligibility. You know what that will do?
7 years.
That's a that will counter the internationals taking. Okay, so think about it. You're a 17 or 18-year-old American kid, and a 20-year-old kid that was at Leeds didn't make it, and he's coming over. Now these Americans can go to JUCO for 2 years, and now they're coming in, and they're both 20, and they both have 4 years of eligibility, and now it's a competition. Yeah. I still think the Americans are probably going to lose out to the kid at Leeds, but I mean, so is that legit? Is that actually
the
going
JUCO
to happen?
Rule, I've heard that. That's the thing, because I think the biggest like thing where you see that being true is American football, because you've seen like quarterbacks that are like. They're like 24.
Josh Allen.
And
Josh Allen went to JUCO. Well, he wasn't the age.
Yeah, he wasn't the age, but no.
Right.
But like you saw the Georgia guy a couple of years ago, which I think now he's like the third backup for Rams or something. But he's like he came into the league and Trevor Lawrence was younger than him already. And it's like, what's like?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
So I think that's definitely been a rule for like American football where like JUCO years don't count, and then you could always redshirt. So it's two JUCO, redshirt, 4 years.
And we're talking 7 years.
So that's 7 years. And now I know, like during COVID, they had like an extra bonus year, so it was like 8 years for like. But I don't think that's true anymore. But like, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But again, like these kids, like, And again, I don't know, like Flash is a lot. Flash and these kids that I like, you know, if you have dual card players, so they're playing every day of the week, it's like you better love it. You better find everything about this sport like enjoyable.
Yep.
And it's like even like me when I was like playing, I was like at some point when you're playing, you're like, dude, this is like burned out. You're like, I've been playing this for 10 years straight. It's like
a couple days
it's
off.
like like so it's like burnout is real, especially if they don't do any other sports. If they're just a one sport athlete, that's why I love and I always would promote more multi-sport athletes.
Yeah, for sure.
Just because I understand like some people are so concerned with like, but it's like you're training different things. If you play basketball, you know, your agility, side to side movement, you know. Your passing, your vision and all that like is working. If you're playing lacrosse, your upper body strength, you know, you're not kicking the ball as much. You are still doing your conditioning. Like there's a lot of different things that.
And you'll be a more well-rounded athlete if you play multiple sports. Didn't you coach lacrosse too?
I did, yeah.
You're not doing that anymore, are you?
Dude, I couldn't do that. No, I did it for like 3 years. I did. So I worked with
Silverstein, right?
I worked with Silverstein was a coach, but I worked with Warkenthien was his name.
Okay.
He was the varsity coach at Clarence, and then I was doing my student teaching with Silverstein, and that's how I kind of got all into Clarence because I was a North kid, but then I did during my student teaching I had to do a coaching minor. So I did my coaching with lacrosse at the varsity level, which was awesome. Those boys are awesome.
Right.
And then after that, I went for modified lacrosse at Clarence for like 2 years.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, I can't. I did a little club too. I did the club youth lacrosse, but I was like, I can't.
Do you miss high school coaching at all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. I learned a lot with college, and being an assistant is okay. Like I have no problem being an assistant with Franco there. Because I respect him and like I like his, you know, I think he does a good job, and I have no problem when like Silverstein, because he's my assistant, when he wants to take leads, because I still think he's got so much experience, so much to offer.
Absolutely.
It's the only problem that like I would have is this whether like I was an assistant, I'd be like, I don't know about this. First of all, this head coach, if you don't get along and you don't think, I think that would be a problem. But there's some people like I have that mindset where I do want to do my thing.
You want to be
like it's again like
that's
there's
why
pros.
That's why you have sharpshooters.
Yeah, but so it's and at the high school level when I was the head coach, like I loved it, and I think it showed this year, especially for North. Like the only team they lost to was Clarence. Like they were pretty much perfect, and the reason is I coached some kids, and I kept as a 7th grader, and now they were freshmen or sophomores.
Yeah.
And they played JV for like 3 years because they were good enough to make my JV. I thought they were probably even in talent than sophomores.
Okay.
And long term, I was like, what would help the program better? Whether to take a 7th grader that's just as good as a sophomore and develop him, and then that sophomore loses out, but he would probably not make varsity in the next year just because the talent's not there. Or keep that 7th grader and all that, which is again, that's the toughest part as a coach with like high school sports. Like the cutting day is like that stinks. I don't want to tell a kid like. No, like that's the worst thing. For Clarence, it was even worse when I coached modified girls at Clarence.
Oh my god!
My first year, I had some of your like I had Gabby Irwin. I had those. That was that group of like. I could have taken every single girl I cut, made a second team with just that team, all the girls I cut, and probably still won. And like the first year, I had like 43, 44 girls try out. Like
That's
I could
insane.
like. The only reason they didn't have 2 teams is just field wise, like and like busing and like. Or else they would. There's
That's
2 boys
crazy
JV
that
team.
they have that many modified kids.
But yeah, and there's girls that I cut twice that then still made JV and varsity, just because then there was like the years and all that were different. But I was just like, and you develop differently, like you know.
Absolutely.
So, but yeah, and now there's girls that play college and all that. There's girls that could have played college that just choose not to because again, it's like it's a job.
Yeah, even at the D3 level.
Yeah.
And the happiest of the boys that I've had that are playing college soccer right now, the happiest ones are the D3 boys. Yeah. D3 and D2. The D1 boys are just...
Plus, on that D1, from my understanding, in like this part of the country, the east side, is tough because I think more D1 schools are over for across the country, if I'm not mistaken.
Probably.
So the traveling, like sense. I was looking at UB's travel thing, and it's like not UB, like Canisius and Niagara's travel thing, and like they're traveling a crazy amount.
That's insane.
Yeah, because if I'm correct, I could be completely wrong, but I thought D1's more on the West Coast, and D3 was more on the East Coast. Like if you saw the
Makes
NCAA,
sense.
more of the D1 schools were there, and more of the
Yeah.
there's still a couple here and there, but
Absolutely.
yeah.
Do you do any other recruiting? Are you?
I don't do big recruiting.
Yeah.
Like that's Coach Augie, who's the head assistant at
Okay.
Buff State, and then Franco does a lot of recruiting. But so around this area, I know a lot of the local kind of talent, so I give my 2 takes on that.
Okay.
And then I did go to. They couldn't make the last showcase at Flash, so I went there just to see if there was any talent, and there was some. One was already committed to Binghamton.
Okay.
So, but there was 3 kids that were pretty good.
Yeah.
So.
What's a budget look like for recruiting? Are they going all over the country, or are they relying more on video?
They take trips, so they go to like New York. They went to like New York City area.
Okay.
For that. I think they did go down to Florida to go check out things. So I think that was part of the.
Okay.
But I don't think they've gone West Coast. We'll see. He's either staying or leaving. He's got another. Yeah.
So he has a year.
He's got years? I think 2 playing years left.
Right. So he could transfer.
He could transfer, whatever. And again, like and I think Franco and Augie would be the same. Like the goal is to coach these kids first of all to have a good, successful future and all that. Get the most out of them while they're here, but also hopefully get to them to whatever they want to go. Their good goal. Like that's what as a coach I would hope that that's our long-term. And I understand like as a head coach your job is to win games, and if if your results factor in that, you're going to have a little bit of selfishness, be like you want to keep your top players.
Yeah.
But if the end goal is to get your players to whatever goal they want to be,
right?
Then which is I think what we usually promote from what I've been is like this could be a stepping stone. This could be your JUCO to the next level, right? To go D1 and all that. And there's been players from Buff State that have done that, right? The recent player was Salim.
Yep.
Got drafted to the MLS. He did Buff State, then Syracuse, and then MLS. So there's talent there that have done it. And again, it's like what the kids want to put in the work. But like you see Diego's been at the facility 2 days a week during off season, just working, grinding.
Yeah. So. How did you get tied in with Buff State?
So Tom Karanis ran
okay.
Clarence. Mm-hmm. He works at Buff State. I had a great relationship with him. Franco and him are very close, and I think Tom was part of the coaching staff, and still is a little bit here and there, but he was part of it a lot bigger before.
Yeah.
And then so I was just looking at the what's called the women's roster, and I saw they had like 4 assistants. And then I saw on the men's side they had Coach Franco, and then Coach Augie was the head assistant.
Yeah.
And I was like, do they maybe need an assistant? So I reached out to Tom, and I was like, hey, do you think they would need an assistant? Like I was so comfortable at North. It was going to be my 3rd year or 4th year. And I was just like, I don't want to be comfortable. I don't want to stay in my comfort zone. I want to, try to improve myself and challenge myself and see, learn and all that stuff. So I was like, would it be a thing? So then we set up a meeting. We set up what I could offer, set up what I was looking to get out of it and stuff like that. And it just worked out. And then I got set up. I left North and Buff State.
What's your role during training?
During training?
Yeah.
Just like assist. Like every once in a while they'll ask me to run a drill. Probably once a week, run a drill.
Okay.
Here and there on what I want. And depending too, if I want to be like, hey, from what I saw on film, I think we need to work on this. Then I would tell them and be like, all right, we'll carve out a goal. But my biggest thing this year was, like I said, I would watch 3 games from every team that we would play. We would play Postan. I'd try to get 3 games that they played. Try to see tendencies, try to see mismatches, and then just do that.
What do you guys use for film?
So it depends, because we use Huddle.
Okay.
And I think SUNYAC itself uses Huddle, but some teams, right, because we didn't always play our conference, use like Veo, use whatever. So I would just try to reach out to coaches. So many coaches would be like, hey, we don't play each other, or hey, I see that you play this team. We already played them. Do you mind sending it, and I'll send you this and all that. So a lot of emails would go out, but most coaches would be like, yeah, let's do it. A couple coaches would be like, oh, our policy is we don't do it, which is fine. Then you just kind of got to look harder and figure out, non-league games and all that to try to do it. But I think I was able to get at least one game for every team. And then once it came to the NCAA tournament, they have to give us a game.
Do you guys do periodization through, or do you guys kind of, what's the word?
Yeah, load management.
Load management, but then reactionary to what you guys need to work on and what's the task at hand with the next team.
So it is tough because of our schedule. Like the schedule makes it so tough. Like if you have a game Wednesday and then you have a game Saturday, like you're not training Thursday. You're going in, you're doing a little lap, you're doing stretches, you're doing like one passing pattern and maybe finishing, and like that's it.
Yep.
Then
I guess travel day or
Thursday. So that's Thursday. Friday, you up it a little bit, and hopefully by then I would have at least one game, if not two games, kind of filmed, so we have the basic things. We go a little harder and stuff like that. But again, like it's still like it's only 48 hours, not even 48 hours after the game, and you got to think there's 48 hours before the next game, so it can't be that crazy.
Right.
And then Friday, we would try to get a decent training session in, nothing too crazy, but like really mimic how they would play and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then Saturday's game, and unfortunately, like Buff State being in the SUNAC doesn't make sense, because like there's what's called. Who's in the SUNYAC? So there's Cortland, who's 2 hours away.
Yep.
Fredonia's 1 hour away.
Okay.
Potsdam's 4 or 5 hours away.
Yeah.
Canton's 4 or 5 hours away. New Paltz 4 or 5 hours away. And then Oneonta 4 or 5. Like everything else is like like it doesn't make sense to be in the Empire 8 would be a better fit. Because it's St. John Fisher, Brockport, Geneseo, Rochester, Nazareth, Elmira. Like, it's all within, 2 hours. Like, that's travel-wise, budget-wise, everything. It would make more sense to be an Empire 8 for Buff State, just location.
Yeah, that does make sense.
Yeah. I don't know the exact, like I'm sure there's people that's thought about it and all done that. I just don't know the exact, why not. But, that would make the most sense.
Did you guys play Rochester this year?
No.
So that's crazy, right?
Yeah. So there's a couple things, what you want out of a team, because you want to set up your schedule so that worst case scenario, if you don't win your league, you can get a bid to the national tournament. Right, that's the goal.
Right.
So what do you get out of playing, I guess, Buff State? Because in recent years, Buff State hasn't been anything crazy. So strength of schedule, they're not going to rank us that crazy, unfortunately.
Right.
Now, so Rochester, but with that being said, we've improved a lot, so the team itself has gotten a lot better than it was in the past. So it's like,
now,
worst case scenario, if you lose to us, you get nothing out of it because you lost to Buff State. They're gonna the tournament, the committee's gonna think, it's not that great of a team.
Right.
If you win, not gonna get much out of it. You beat Buff State, it's another.
Congrats,
so it's like
right.
So scheduling wise for coaches, it's like, is that worth it? Is it worth to have a good competition, and then you kind of lose both ways?
Yeah.
Or some coaches don't care, but some coaches, they think about that because, that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
So for us, we try to find teams that every once in a while, like Hilbert, makes sense to us. Not based on talent-wise, unfortunately, just because they just don't have the the resources and the talent to put up a great team. But it's close, so budget-wise, travel-wise, it's cheap.
Yeah.
And for the boys, an easy game. You never take it as an easy game, but you'd hope that you find your scoring boots and that everything works out the way you want it.
Yeah.
But and again, you can at the college level, you can never really take a team for granted. These are college players. But, there's a couple teams that, it's got to make sense in our schedule.
Yeah.
And so.
So, Sharpshooters. Hey guys, thanks for watching this episode of the I Hate Soccer podcast. If you feel stuck in your recruiting process, we created a guide that includes feedback from 15 college coaches and 10 current college soccer players. Inside this guide, you'll find out what really works in recruiting, from showcases, ID camps, highlight reels, and more. Check it out at playmakertraining.com/recruited.
Yeah.
How's that going?
Work.
Yeah. Pretty happy.
But it's fun. It's great. Yeah. It's like, and again, like it's tough to. I don't know what I like better. I love coaching games. I love figuring out, seeing if tactic-wise, changing it. I love doing that aspect and seeing actually like when you train all year, seeing what it shows and all that
in the games. Yeah.
So that's something I love, and it would be tough for me to not do that. It would be tough. It would be so tough. Mm-hmm. But with that being said, like I love being able to see a player and then after a year just seeing how much they improve. It's like crazy. It's the toughest part to coach is the younger kids.
Yeah,
the 8-year-olds, 7-year-olds, 9-year-olds. Yeah. When like the fundamentals aren't there, and on top of it, like they don't just have the leg strength to do some of the things.
Yep.
And you're like that's when like technique is so important, because if you don't have the strength to, you better for shooting, you better be facing the net so that your follow through is at the net, because you don't have the leg strength to make up for a pad touch to the side.
Right.
And it's like those little details, and it's like I'm trying to teach them. It's like once you get older, faster, stronger, like you're going to be able to make up for it. But again, like you need to make sure that you understand that, hey, if I'm able to take my first touch and it goes right in front of me, then I have a way better chance of getting a clean shot and getting a good shot.
That's so true. Especially with, I wish, and I know you film a lot of your sessions, I wish I would film every single session just to have it. Not for social media purposes, just to have it. So then when in a year's time or 2 years' time of working with a kid, you just see the difference. I love telling kids, like, man, a year ago you could not do that or whatever. And that's the most rewarding aspect of really what what I've been doing with PlayMaker. I love it when somebody asks me about you and they're like, are you okay if we train with Yohan? And I'm like, yes. Why would I do this? Why would I be okay with this partnership if I didn't want you training with Yohan? It's like, I'm not territorial. Yeah. Like, I don't think this is my client and you have your clients and stay away. It's like, no, it takes a village. I truly believe that kids need different perspectives. They need different coaches, and they need different coaches saying the exact same thing. So then it just clicks. They're like, oh, well, yeah, you know what? Yohan told me to do that. Well, maybe he's right. And it's like, I love it when parents do that, because
we can't coach every day of every hour, but we have, like, you look at players, like best one is like Harper.
Yeah,
she's in here every day of the week.
Yeah,
and it's like she's getting the most out of it because she's training so much, right? And then she gets to, like, there's some days where you're not available, and there's some days where I'm not available, and it's like,
exactly,
that's the thing. And like for my players, like the best thing is, like, over the summer when you were running pickup clinics, I was like, go get touches.
Yeah,
the better you get, the easier it is going to be for me when I coach you on a team.
Yeah,
why would I not want you to be better? It's like, it just 100%. Makes no sense.
Yeah, and some people are like, why don't you have any more time for us? Or what? Like, are you abandoning us? I'm like, no, we've restructured what we're doing here, and there's going to be less time and less availability. So come to this. Yeah. Let's come to this class rather than one-on-ones. Yeah. I'm slowly trying to weed out the one-on-ones, the private sessions, and just do small groups and private small groups and our technical training and those pickups. I love those pickups.
I love pickups.
You did them today. Yeah. And
I love, first of all, here's the biggest thing. First of all, it'd be so great if there was the street soccer that you have in other countries, right? Because first of all, I remember playing in France where I grew up, and it was like during the summer at 12 in the afternoon, you'd see all these young kids. And as it got a little bit later in the day, people got off work, it got a little bit cooler. You see older and older and older. By the time it's like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and the sun's down, and it's nice and cool, adults are playing. And like, if you want to play, you can, like, nobody's telling you can't play. But you got to be ready. Like, if you're 12, 13 years old and you want to play against a full-grown adult, like, you better figure out. You better either be more physical or you better be smarter.
Yeah.
And like that's how you get these kids get so good at soccer in Europe.
Yeah.
Because there's that.
And I was reading like a book on Pele or something, and he talked about street soccer. And what developed him, yes, street soccer developed him, but it was also the experience of not getting picked and not being allowed to play because of the older players. They're like, dude, you can't play. It will crush you. It will kill you. Yeah. And so he would have to go home and work on his skill so that he was good enough to be able to be picked and to be able to play with those guys. And what's the we've talked about this before. What's the neighborhood in France that's responsible of like so many World Cup
Central
players?
Paris and Central Paris. I don't know exactly, but it's crazy.
And it's just cement, right?
It's just cement caged in.
Yeah.
And then like the cage has like an indent for like a little field hockey net size.
Yeah.
And they just play.
I love that.
Yeah.
And what's interesting in here, and Carissima and I always talk about it, is you could tell the players that are good in tight spaces, and you could tell the kids that are not. And there's nowhere to hide in there.
No.
I mean, it's wall to wall. We play fences, and the back wall is out of bounds, but some kids really struggle to find space. They kill each other's space. I mean, you said 5v5 is the largest you go to?
5v5 is the largest.
You can't do more than 5v5 in there because then it gets way
And 5v5, you can barely dribble. Like, you beat a player and you have to pass.
Yep.
Which I do love, but it's all about, like, movement off the ball.
Yep.
1-2 touches. Like, it's
Passing
more,
angles,
5v5 is more strategic and tactical.
Yep.
4v4, 3v3 is more, hey, you can beat a player and then you can keep driving and all that.
Yep.
Because you have more space and stuff like that. But again, what I do, usually I put a rule where it's like a 1 or 2 touch finish. Okay. Because I don't want to see a player beat 3 players
try to dribble everybody
and then just score.
Yeah.
All right?
Because especially with the little ones, they want to beat somebody and then they'll pull it back and then they'll try to beat them again, or they try to take on everybody. It's like, okay, once you beat one guy, can you get a teammate involved and get a 3-person combo? Because so many times they work on just give and goes, and then there's a third player over here just chilling. It's like, try to find that third person, and then that really unbalances the defense. And then all of a sudden, we're teaching concepts.
And then the biggest thing too is like you hear coaches and all that, and like the younger level and people that don't understand, it's like coaches tell you never to dribble with your head down.
Right.
Never like all that. It's like, listen, you're going 1-on-1, your head's going to be a little bit down to beat the player. When they say keep your head up, it means once you beat that player, once you've taken space,
right,
head up, what's your next move?
Yep.
You pass, shoot, or dribble, or take more space.
Yeah.
And it's like that's when your head's up, is once you take your space or once you beat your player, right, good dribblers are able to then realize, hey, that's when my head's up. That's when I need to decision. It's not when we're going 1-on-1 and then my head's just up and I'm not watching the ball. Like, exactly. That's a little bit tougher. Like there's good dribblers that are able to do that and not even look at their feet in the ball. But it's like that's not what the coaches mean when they said dribble with your.
I'm big on eye placement. So like I want to be able to see the defender. I want to be able to see the ball, but then I also want to be able to see what's going on in my peripheral, and I'm never really looking at the ball, and I'm never really looking at the defender. I'm always trying to like look here, so then I'm training my peripheral. If you look at pictures and videos of like Messi almost never, when he's about to shoot, he's a master of disguising it, because he looks at goal, but he's just using his peripheral, and he can see everything, and goalkeepers are usually wearing a bright color.
Yeah.
And so he could see it. And what was it? Was it Pep? Somebody was yelling at his team about how the 18-yard box doesn't change. The 6-yard box doesn't change. The penalty spot doesn't change, and the goal doesn't move. Like, none of that stuff moves. So you should know where you are. And in your pattern play, you should know where the run might be coming from, and how. Sometimes Messi will pull off a play, and it's like, how did he see him? It's like, dude, we underestimate how good that guy's vision is.
Yeah.
And that's not. I think that's something that could be taught, but I think the more that you play in here, small-sided, the slower the game is out there when it's 11v11, because you're like, oh man, I have so much more time on the ball, and hopefully your decision making is better. Yeah. And Carissima on Thursdays, used to be Tuesdays, but Thursdays, I guess it's every other Thursday right now, she plays pickup with her co-ed team, so it's men and women, and it's a lot of FC Buffalo girls against some older guys. And she credits her going over and playing in Norway to playing pickup in here. And I think it's one little thing that's missing in some of our development, because why are we behind? Is it our coaching? I think our coaching's pretty darn good. I think it's is it our system as a whole? Of course it is, because ECNL versus like everything else, or MLS Next and everything else. But I think for the most part, it's our culture. Did your parents play?
Yeah, my dad played.
Did your grandparents play?
That's a good question. I don't know. I would assume so.
So no doubt about it. You're
all my dad's brothers played for sure, and then like.
So no question, you're at least a second generation soccer player. Yeah. How many players did you work with in here or at Clarence are first generation?
Yeah.
I think we're still so young, but also the pickup culture. We don't have it. We aren't having that situation where, wow, I wasn't picked and I'm not good enough. I need to go home and work on my skill. What happens here? You're not playing. You're not starting. You get a call from mom and dad, or an email saying, why isn't John playing more? What does he need to work on?
Yeah.
Rather than just working on your own and just it all coming to you.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just my little rant.
My parents for my travel teams have been awesome.
Yeah.
And it's not the same for every coach and everything and all that. Mine have been absolutely awesome. And the biggest thing is like in the beginning of the season, you always have to lay it out. Like I always say, like, listen, first of all, they're paying for travel. So like every kid's going to play. Every kid's, it's like the goal is you play 50% of the games, like 50% of the time in all the games. That would be the ideal goal. So you're getting at least, half the games playing time. Now, is that going to show where every single game you're going to get 50% of the minutes? No. And I'll make sure to tell my parents that. Is like, listen, there's some games where you might get 10, 20% of the minutes, right? Because it's a competitive game. You're not an immediate starter, immediate off the bench. So like, if we got to, at this age group, especially, and again, age group factors, right? What we want to get out of it. But by U16, that's kind of the goal. Is like, let's go in for every game and try to win. Okay. Yeah. That's our goal. That's why we 3-4 practices a week. That's why you're training for.
Yeah.
And now, but there's going to be some games where, we're winning, we're cruising and all that. And it's like, this is the perfect time for your kid to gain confidence and to get game experience. Like, first of all, there's certain kids, and I know I was probably the same at certain age groups and certain teams. It's like, I never wanted to make a mistake. Like as a sophomore on varsity, playing, I didn't want to screw up. And then I didn't have that confidence. Like, I knew I was good enough to be on that team, but I never wanted to like make a mistake in the game and cost my team, right? Because there's seniors, there's older players and all that. And that's just, the mindset I was in. And there's some kids that have that like, they just don't want to mess up. So it's like, do they want to be in a game where it's super close, and if they do mess up they lose a pass, they lose a dribble, and they score, then they feel like they don't have that confidence, or like, or do you want to put a kid in where it's, it's 4-0, and if he makes a mistake, we still win. What's the worst case scenario, right? You're matching him up with similar competition, and, they're getting playing time and all that, and they're just developing. Like, biggest thing for this, what we train is like, as much as it's improved technical and all that, it's like, just improve your confidence. The more confidence you have, the more risk you take, the more it works out. So that's the biggest thing, is just get the players as confident as can be.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the confidence with our players comes from doing a lot of reps, and then imagine you're in a team setting and you only got 5 shooting reps. Because sometimes that happens when you have 18, and let's say they're all bad. Well, training in here with you, or training in here with me or Carissima or whatever, they could get 50 shots. Now, all of a sudden, you might still have those 5 bad ones, but then you're going to have 10 that are good. And then you'll have another bad one, and then you'll have another 3 that are good. And at the end, when they're on fire, it's like, are you still upset about those 5 that weren't very good? And unfortunately, in some team settings, it's those 5, and then you're going home thinking, man, I'm not that good.
Yeah.
That's why I think this realm of the personal soccer trainer, that's why we exist, because they're not getting it at home, and they're not getting it in a club environment, because club coaches can't. They just can't, unless you have an insane staff and you have an entire field to yourself, which is rare, But
and it makes sense, especially in Buffalo, when like half the year you can't train outside. Like unfortunately, having a facility and having those things, that's why it works also so well and stuff like that.
Have you gotten any pushback from other coaches from different clubs working with sharpshooters at all?
No.
No.
And the biggest thing is and I have some parents that are like, we don't know if we're going to do this month, like budget wise, I'm like, and I understand, like, it's just like, this is like, you need to have disposable income.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, you try to make it for everyone. And like, again, pick up sessions, like $15 for an hour, 15, like it's cheaper than babysitting a kid for like, it,
Absolutely.
It makes sense. But like, if you do want to do a one-on-one and stuff like that, like the biggest thing I do is like, Clarence does such a good job of like, hey, you're a U14, you're a U15 player. You train on, Tuesdays and Thursdays. On Wednesdays, there is the U16 team.
Yep.
Go ask the coach if they don't mind if you come and train with them. You're insured by the club, so that doesn't matter.
Right.
If you're doing this extra, and again, I understand if you're the worst player on your red team, then maybe go and train with the white team and be the best player on that. Like, figure it out where it makes sense.
Right.
Like, talent-wise. But a lot of the time, it's like coaches aren't going to say no to a player training with them. Like, it's very few coaches have a crazy amount of players show up. Most of the time, as an indoor, I'm guessing your average player is probably like the average 14 kids show up.
Yeah.
So, like, what's 15 to... And you get an extra full training session for a whole other hour every week, and then on top of that, it's free. And then if you are playing with a higher age group, which I always promote, I love playing up, is you're playing against better competition.
Yeah.
So it's like, why not? And again, I love playing up because then physically and speed wise, they tend to be better. So you got to be smarter.
Yeah.
I don't. And again, right? It's some parents are like, I'd rather be in my same age group with better technical competition than in a less technical competition that's relies more on bigger, faster, stronger.
Right.
And it's like there's both to that. You can be either way when you choose that. It's harder to find the more technical at the same age group.
Yeah.
But it's easier to be like, hey, we're just going to play up an age group, and they might not be as technical. But they're going to be bigger, faster, stronger. So you just got to be smarter. Like you can
have to be smarter, quicker with decisions. Yeah.
So, and I love playing the age group up. And the biggest drawback from like parents I've had is just like, they're nervous on, injuries and stuff like that. And that's always like, like last year, my U13, so last year they were U12, we played against U14 kids. Mm-hmm. And it's like, 2 years difference at this age for boys where they're starting to hit puberty. Like, there were some times where we were playing big boys. But again, in indoor, I think we had 8 games. I think we won 2 or 3, and I think we tied 1, and then we lost 4. Out of those 4 losses, 3 of the games we lost by a goal. Mm-hmm. The other game we got blown out, but it was just like you lose 2 by a goal against kids that are 2 years older than you. Is that good, bad? Like why? And then the next, I had some backlash. So parents wanted to play the same age group, which I understand. It's not always fun to lose or to, when you went out of the 8 games, you only win 2. Like I get it. Yeah. It's important to have both winning and losing to develop kids. But like then we entered our own age group the next session, winter session, 95 goals for, 1 goal against.
Told you so.
Like why? Like why? We had one game where we started 9v9. I finished with 5 players on the field. And I was like, why? Like, is this...
I'd so much rather do that and pull players off than say, okay, 8 passes and you have to score with your left foot. It's
I don't do that.
Stop that. I hate that. That's funny.
But it was just like, I was just like, Like, I get it. I get that we want to win, and winning's more enjoyable and stuff like that. But it's just like to a point. It's like
there's a method to the madness.
Yeah. So,
how long have you been coaching at Clarence? What year is this for you?
2018, I think, 7 years.
Okay, 7 years.
Yeah, I think I had my girls team I had a U9 or U8 girls team.
Okay.
Which was fun, but it's tough. It's tough. But
do you know what birth year that was?
They are now they're U14 now, I think.
So probably like 2011s, maybe 2010s,
like
probably.
Yeah. So I had them first, and then the next year I had I want to say I picked up the boys team, my U16s right now. Mm-hmm. I think I picked them up when they were U12.
Yeah.
And then the year after that, I went 2 teams, and that's when I picked up my modified girls team that I started with, and they were U15, so they were 2 years older.
Okay.
And so I had them, and then I graduated them 2 years ago. And then after 2 years ago, I picked up this U13 team. So now I just have my U16 boys and my U13 boys, but I've coached 4 different teams at Clarence.
Okay.
Graduated 1 team, and then 1 team just...
How long were you with that team that you graduated?
U15 to U18, so 3 years.
Okay, so 3 years.
Yeah.
Does Mike have, or does Frank, who oversees the older ages? Or is it both of them?
It's, right now, for the girls?
But the entire club.
It's just depending. Like, the coaches usually stay with their teams a lot of time, unless they
right, like Silverstein's been with that team.
So
Sydney's team forever.
So they stay with that, but there was a lot of turnaround. I guess this year there was a couple black teams that kind of lost their coach.
Okay.
So Mike Cooper took with Stelrec, took the oldest boys at the club, that U18 black team.
Okay.
Very good set of players. So they took their team, and then where else? There's another couple coaching changes based on what goes in and what goes out. But yeah, I'll just stay with my boys and all that. Mm-hmm. There was talks of maybe picking up a 3rd team, but it's I'd rather offer extra for my boys' team. I'd rather just do more instead of doing 3 practices a week. I'd rather 4 practices a week for each. So they maximize more than just pick up another team and do less with the teams I have than do that. I'd rather do that personally.
I was the exact same. And what would happen was I worked for a club that wouldn't allow that.
More than
right, and because then you get other coaches. You get other coaches that say, well, or other parents that have other coaches that say, well, Yohan's team is training 4 times. Why can't we train? And then the coach would be like, "Don't compare me to Yohan. Don't but saying me." So I was wondering if there's structure at Clarence of saying you can only do this, you can only do that. I mean, is anybody training at a gym?
Yeah, I train at a gym.
Yeah, I love
futsal.
I miss training in gyms. And think about all the passing sequences you do in here.
But now the ball's bouncing.
But you could do that with that, and you could do it with a futsal ball.
Yeah.
And just do all your normal sessions, but do it with a futsal ball. And I swear, if you give 5 months of training with a futsal ball, the second you go outside, we have so much more control and so much more. Oh, I miss those days when I was in team training in the gym.
Yeah, the kids love it. The kids absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, no, I know I chose as a the club does require you to do if you're a white team, you need to do 2 practices, 3 tournaments. Not any indoor league if you don't want to. If you're a red team, you need to do 2 practices a week, 3 tournaments, and 1 indoor league. The black team, you have session, 3. Yeah. Because it's different.
Does it go
cost.
Black, red, white?
It goes white with there's blue too every once in a while, but it's white and blue.
Yep.
Red, black. Black's the highest
level.
Black's
the highest. Okay.
So that's like the club does require like if you're a certain team, because it costs more for the families, so they should get more out of it, you know.
Okay.
But for me, like as a black team, technically I'd have 3 practices a week, and the club would set out 3 turf times a week. Now I made it so that I have 2 turf times and 1 gym time, and one of my turf time is full field. I set it up so that I can work on passing patterns and bigger field,
right,
and start doing that. But to be fair, I very rarely scrimmage full field.
Yeah.
Even if I have numbers, I'll do half the field because like I said, I'd rather
like tight spaces,
more pressure, more decision making, all that.
Realistic pressure. Yeah.
And again, there's pros and cons to that. Like, there's more running if it's full field and stuff like that.
Right.
But, I'd rather do the decision making. I rarely anytime the boys run, it's not like, oh, we're going to go for a run or we're going to do that. It's you lost this game, you're doing a sprint here and there, and then we're back at it. Like, you're going to run during the drills. You're going to work during the drills.
Right.
I'm not going to waste the 1 hour that we get to make you guys run. You can do that on your own. You don't need me to, and some players won't do it on their own, but then, you see the players that are physically fit. And unfortunately for them, like soccer is a very, very demanding physical sport.
Absolutely.
Like, it's crazy.
You picked cross country with a soccer ball.
Yeah, it is and at the higher and higher level, it is absolutely crazy how physically demanding of a sport it is.
Yeah.
And again, you can get away. You don't have to be the fastest, strongest player. Like some of the best players in the world aren't.
Right.
But they can run for days.
Yep.
It's crazy.
I once about how you play smaller side.
Yeah,
even though you have a full field. I love that because there's one time I went and watched Tottenham train in person, and I'm very anti touch restrictions, especially on my backline players and my goalkeeper when they have time. Because I feel that what it develops is players that don't want to be on the ball and like a little bit nervous. What Tottenham does instead, and this was actually when Pochettino was the coach, which is now our national team coach. Instead of playing full field, they played 11v11 in the width of the 18 in one half. They were playing 11v11. And it's like, that's natural touch restrictions. Because like what we were talking about in here, nobody can dribble multiple guys because you're going to get wrecked. So your decision making has to be so much faster in an 11v11 width of the 18 field than an unnecessary touch restriction. I'd rather shrink the space, put them in here, rather than I've seen some trainers play 5v5 on an 8v8 and 9v9 field. Yeah. And it's like, that's not really helping because you're developing such bad habits. This guy can dribble all over the place. Yeah. And then they put even more unrealistic restrictions like, okay, in the defensive half, we got to play 1 and 2 touch. It's unlimited in the attacking half. I'm like, I can't stand that. So if I'm a goalkeeper and I take 3 touches, what happens? Oh, it's a foul. Oh, it's a free kick. It's an indirect free kick. And I'm like, yes, that's very realistic. It's like we're putting unrealistic restrictions on the game, and it just drives me nuts.
Yeah. And again, like I see both. I agree with you that like when you're putting a touch restriction, 2 touch, 3 touch, and all that, like sometimes it just makes no sense.
Right.
Because nobody pressed that player. So he should take as many touches and all that. And sometimes the bad habits it's create is players think that they always have to one touch it. When it's like you don't have to.
You had time.
Did you hear me say man on? Like I'm and again some programs and some coaches and whatever be like, don't joystick your players.
Right.
But it's like I'm providing them with what I can see, which maybe they can't see, and I'm always gonna talk, and I'm always gonna be like, what I think and again, if I tell a player to, hey, come press right there, and he gets beat, like I told him to do that. He listened to me. Like if he gets beat, I'm not gonna be like, You know.
And we're working with 12 and 13-year-old kids.
Yeah.
He didn't scan. He didn't check his shoulder. And nobody on his teammates is telling him time or man on. So what's wrong with me telling him time or man on? And 100% about the one touch. And I feel when I go to youth games, most of the turnovers are because they didn't take enough touches versus they played too quickly. Or they played too slow. You know what I mean?
So it was like those are the things where it's like sometimes I feel like I do it to myself because I do some touch restrictions depending on drills and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like they're so like into it, but I always have it where like, listen, the goal is can we play one touch? Like if we could play one touch soccer, it's like nobody like defense isn't gonna get organized. Nobody's gonna shift.
Exactly.
The standard should be like 2 touches. There's a goal and a standard.
Yep.
It's like you always should be able to take 2 touches. Even if you have a man on, if you use your body properly, very rarely will they win the ball without a foul if you use it properly.
Yeah.
They're either, if they really want the ball, they're going to run you over and it's going to be like a foul and stuff like that. So it's like sometimes I'm like, you had a touch. Like take a touch, then pass it.
Yep.
But
and then when they do get wrecked because they took too many touches, I'll just be like, hey, did you learn from that? Next time that happens, are you going to take that many touches? And most of the time say no, or the kid is like, what do you? People always say, well, what do you do with the kid that tries to dribble too much? Like, well, I'll tell everybody else on the team, like, why aren't we punishing him for trying to dribble everybody? Why are we allowing him to dribble? Kick him, just kick him once. When Max Quitchoff, who played at Rhode Island, plays at Albany. When he was 11 years old, he would come to my invite-only stuff, and he would just torch kids. And instead of saying, okay, Max, you only have 2 touches, it's like, that's not helping him. I forced like Kyle Pollard and some of those other guys would be like, do you guys like being embarrassed by Max? Kick him. Just please kick him. But then you could also,
like there's so many different things. Like in small-sided, if somebody's sitting in front of the net, shoot the ball as hard as you can.
Exactly.
I'm never going to be like, hey, I want you to injure this player. Like, that's not what I'm here.
Right.
I'm like, trust me, if you shoot it once hard and he gets hit in the side or the leg, odds are the kid's probably not going to want to stand right next to the net again. Like, just
exactly. It happens in here all the time.
Like, I don't want to hear you complain that the kid's in front of the net. You know, hit it once, twice. If a player will just eat it and soak it, I like that defender. I'll take that. Like I don't mind it either. Yeah. Right. And then for the touch restriction, if somebody's dribbling too much, the biggest thing I do is like I'll just do a 1-touch finish. So they can dribble as much as they want, but they gotta pass it. And if they get frustrated because there's nobody coming with them, it also like if you don't have players supporting you making runs off the ball. You're also not doing it right too.
Yeah, absolutely. And it'll hopefully teach players to crash the net as well. Because the easiest way to score goals is 1-touch rebounds. Just boop. And that's where that came from, actually. Because when I used to always just say, anytime a shot comes back, it's a rebound. Get a 1-touch. And she made that for me. But
I just saw a little YouTube training session with Brighton Albion.
Okay.
And they put rebounders in the net.
I love that.
So if you hit those rebounders, it
comes right back out.
And then either defense has to react or offense you have to react to.
So emergency defending. And
I started doing that too. I started putting rebounds in the net on certain drills when I can. And I love that. First of all, with the college level, it was so good.
Yeah.
And then with the other boys, like, you know, sometimes
have you done it with our kick walls? The brown ones? The wood ones?
Yeah, the brown ones.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. I saw it and I was like, those little things, it's like you never think about it. I would never think put a rebounder in the net. But I saw it once and I was like,
you know how I flip them over?
Yeah,
and you do it sometimes too. And I got that from Marcelo Morea because he was doing a goalkeeper session with him, and I'm like, I love that. It's like, you ever work with a coach that's like,
it's like, you genius. Like, why did I never
that? But also the whole, well, I don't want you to come watch my training sessions because I don't want you knowing our secrets. Or please no filming. No, don't film our sessions. It's like, dude, there's no secrets. And if there are like cool things, share them. Yeah. That's why I'm starting this. Like I've done a lot of these with college players, but now I got Rudy Pompert from Stallions. You're in here. Matt Waddington's coming in here hopefully in the next week or so we can talk Eagles Chiefs. And then multiple coaches, just because I like talking soccer, and I feel like in Buffalo we're not that much of a soccer community right now. I feel like it's the big dog and then everybody else. And I want to like close that gap of like, dude, there's a lot of good people in this area. And stop saying, well, Buffalo doesn't have enough players, and stop saying Buffalo doesn't have a good enough coaches. Yeah, we do. We have it's good enough.
Yeah.
Or it's not. I shouldn't say it's good enough because
we actually attract like there's a lot of talent like for Toronto, like Canada comes down here and do that. And you got to think like the BDSL is one of the oldest amateur leagues in the United States.
Makes sense.
It's like one of the
with how they treat it and all of like the social media.
Yeah, I love it.
Like
I love it.
teams.
Yeah, it's so fun.
I make fun of them all the time. When did you come over from France? How old were you?
So I was born there.
Yep.
Lived there for 4 years. Moved to Italy. Lived in Turin, which was very cool because it was 2000.
Ooh.
So Zinedine Zidane played for Juve in 2000. And me and his son, Enzo Zidane, went to the same French preschool. We were in a French preschool together.
Oh, my God.
So I got so much stuff signed from Zidane. We would hang out, went to his house, did a birthday party at Juve facility. So cool. So cool. So cool.
Unbelievable.
Personally, one of my best players. Like,
that you've ever been around.
He was so good. He was like you. The closest comparison nowadays is Jude Bellingham. He's getting compared to him so much. But I just think like Jude is physically more of a present than Zidane was, but Zidane is a little bit silkier on the ball, in my opinion.
Yes.
But very similar players, very very similar players in my opinion. And then after that, I came to Goshen, Orange County, Poughkeepsie area.
Okay.
Lived there for 3 years. Went back to France for a year, and then I moved to Buffalo in 5th grade. So that was 2006 because it was like the next year was that big winter storm or something like that. The one that was like we were gone for like 2 weeks or something.
Yeah.
That one was. So I've been here since,
Okay.
So.
And then you went to North.
Yep.
And then
Brockport.
Yep. Okay.
And then stayed here. Now stay here, which I don't know why. There's some times where I'm just like,
you look outside and you're like, what are we doing?
So first of all, I don't do any winter sports. Like I'm not a skier or snowboarder and all that.
Right.
I've done a couple times here and there, but it's not like, I don't know. It's not my cup of tea. And then the thing that I hate the most is how dark it gets so early. Dude, we're here. We wake up. It's like the sun rises at like 7:30 and it sets at like 4 o'clock on like in December.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is brutal.
Yeah.
You're out of work and it's dark. And I'm like, this is not fun.
Yeah. And like when you're a teacher, sometimes you go to work when it's dark and you
leave.
And
like if you're in
if
you're in like the later schedules, But dude, no. But other than that, like I do love Buffalo, especially during the summer. Summer's really
great.
Nice. That's perfect weather and stuff like that.
And you went to France last year? Or was that 2 years ago now?
I don't know exactly. It was a year or 2 years ago. It was for Grandma's 80th birthday. Had to. Didn't have a choice.
All of your family still over there? Do you have a lot of family over there?
So the only family right now that's here is my mom and dad.
Okay.
And my sister travels. She just travels the world. She was like this past year. She did Korea, South Korea, Japan, Thailand, Philippines, and I think right now she's back. And her like base is like Portugal, but she just travels.
How?
She works remotely.
Yep.
And she just travels. She just travels and works. So, yeah. So she spends a lot of time in Brazil during like the kite surfing months. She's a big kite surfer, so she does that.
That's
like we couldn't be like I'm more of like a homebody and like that. She's out and about. And then
that's crazy. That's awesome.
Yeah, and then the rest of my family is in France, and then my mom's side is North France, kind of closer to Switzerland and Germany, that area on the northeast, and then my dad's side is southeast, closer to like Italy and all that. But yeah, no, growing up, when I was younger, we would go there for like 2 months, and we would just visit my mom's and visit my dad's and all that, and just be with all the cousins, and it was fun.
That's
Did a lot
awesome.
of soccer, younger. Did like a couple overnight camps, like week-long camps where you like stay overnight, and you do that. Vichy, it's where like a lot of like Olympians train, especially for swimming. They're very much known for swimming. Like Michael Phelps did a lot of his stuff there.
Okay.
Because some of the pools and some of the stuff they have is very high tech.
Yeah.
So they did that, but the soccer camps were so cool. There's people from like Germany, Spain, all that, and you have these kids, and then you just stay a week. You just wake up, go do soccer from like 9 to 12, go eat, relax, chill. Soccer from like 4 to 6.
Do they still do them?
Oh yeah.
So it's kind of like it's like an IMG or a what's the place in Cleveland? The Spire Academy, where it's all these different sports and the Olympians go and train there, and
yeah, that's a cool little thing. So it's awesome. But
when people ask me about like summer camps and what summer camps to do, it's like, well, if you're not doing ours, I mean, ours is for like little kids, but if you're looking for something serious to
like
do,
talent,
it's like,
I think the most talent I've seen was probably at Silverstein's.
okay,
He's probably had the most talented, just like the kids that show up are probably the highest level of kids I've seen. But again, every other place is like, and again, some parents like the kids are having fun. Like, does it matter? Doesn't matter if the talent's there if they're having fun.
It's true.
You know, like at the end of the day, like, so
that's playing and
yeah.
And if you are that much more talented than everybody else, I mean, you get to.
It's also fun. It's fun. It's fun being the best. Like, there's no, you know.
It is. That's
the reason you work. Like, it's fun to train 4 days a week for an entire winter season, and then you come in and it works out, and you're winning games, and as if they're competitive, even better. But if you keep winning, it's fun. It works out. You know, like you study in school and you get good grades. That's the point. You work hard in sports and you win. Like, you know, and the biggest thing is like for our trainings, like certain players that I coach, it's like it's high intensity. It's just like ruthless, skill. And then there's some younger ones where like, you know, the kids aren't as locked in.
Yep.
So it's like I need to dial it back. Like for me, this is why I don't do any camps anymore.
Yeah.
Because I'd rather like coach, you know,
smaller groups, more individual time
like
with the
higher
player.
Intensity and stuff like that.
Yep.
And again, I don't mind coaching kids that are like kind of brand new to soccer, but it's not my bread and butter. Like that, I wouldn't say that's what I'm best at, is taking a player that has no skill and getting them really good really quick.
Right.
I think my bread and butter is like taking a player with all the fundamentals and then like taking them like a little step next, like that next step and all that.
And some of our sessions and with some of the higher level girls, the ECNL girls that come in here who are kind of teetering on burning out, those become therapy sessions. You know, we get our reps in and everything, but they decompress.
Yeah, just have
from
like
the
it's fun
stress that they have, and make sure that they're still enjoying it, even like especially if they're going through the recruitment process. Because when they finally commit, then it's like a breath of fresh air, and it's almost like seeing a new kid. But leading up to that process, these kids, they're under so much pressure, especially when they're paying that type of money and the pressure is, where are you going to school? No. And it comes from parents and it comes from your teammates, and it's just like, okay, well, today is going to be nice.
We're gonna do fun stuff. We're not gonna do that much technical. It's gonna be
we're gonna shoot a lot and whatnot. So sharpshooters, what are you offering right now? Private?
So I do private. I do, if they want to set up small group. I don't set, like, you know how you set up classes and then they can sign up and, you know, whatever? Right. I don't do that.
Right. You have the parents set up the private group, and then they're kind of like, I call them, when I do private small groups, I just call them the manager. And like, okay, you're in charge of who is invited, because I don't want somebody emailing me saying, oh, I saw that you trained so-and-so on Thursdays. Can I come and jump in? I'm like, nope, you got to contact her or whatever.
Yeah, so I do that where if they want to invite a player or whatever, they can invite whoever they want. Yeah. And when I do that, I always recommend, listen, if you're going to invite a player to train, depending on, you know, the seriousness of the kid, invite somebody that's better. Always invite somebody that's better than you. All right?
Invite somebody that's better, and invite somebody that wants the same things as you do. Because, I mean, how many times have you had a large group and this kid wants to play in college and this kid just wants to be with his friends? Usually this kid brings down the level of this kid. And years and years ago, a club that I worked for sent a kid over to Darby County. His name's Caleb Stanko. Still the best player that I've ever worked with. He was around when he was like 13. And the difference he said, he's still playing in Germany professionally. When he went to Darby County, and he said the difference between what's happening in Michigan and what's happening in Darby County was that at Darby County, everybody wanted to be a pro. And everybody knew what it took and was serious and put everything into every single session. Whereas he'd go back to his club team at Vardar, and some kids only just wanted to joke around. Yeah. Some kids are really focused on playing college. Some wanted to be a pro, but for the most part, in the United States, we don't know what it takes to be a pro because we're not around pros all the time. We're not going to Zinedine Zidane's house, Whereas in the European culture, I feel like you guys are just so entrenched in that culture, and you see it, and you see those players. It's I don't know.
It's but even the best thing, like you said, like some players want to do that. Some players even at the college level right now, what sets Diego apart is he wants to see if he can't get to that next level, and the way he approaches training sessions and all that, he's serious when it comes time to train. It's locked in. I remember I coached him throughout the season. We had set up times individually just to get extra training in. Mm-hmm. And I like to usually put music on and side thing. No music, coach. We're here to work. It's just we're here to work. And it's that's the mindset where it's you're just he wants to see if he can't get to the next level.
Love that.
So
where's he from?
I want to say Albany area.
Okay.
I don't know, born wise. I don't know.
What about clubs? Was he an RNY kid or was he?
No idea.
Syracuse?
Yeah, no idea. Syracuse got some good teams.
Well, I guess what club is in Albany? I have no idea.
Yeah, but
Syracuse SDA.
Yeah, there's two local kids at what's called at Buff State that are very good. There's one from Cheektowaga.
Yeah,
he was our starting right back, and then our starting right.
Steven?
Yeah,
Steven Haven.
Haven.
Yeah, I saw him.
Great player.
Yeah, I saw him when I was walking in here on Monday, and he's just chilling on the turf. Steven, I used to always call him PH because he spells his name with a PH.
Yeah, and
he was on the team with back in the day, he played for GPS, and he was with Colin Rewald and AJ Zarconi, and he would train with all those guys. Mm-hmm. Alex Lasky, a Clarence kid, mm-hmm. Kyle Pollard sometimes, even though Kyle was a year older.
Yeah.
And who's the other one? Who's the other local?
Ane Jadu, Amherst.
Okay. Oh, Daniel was talking about him.
Yeah.
He's... Yeah,
little winger.
Okay,
very good. He's his biggest strength, in my opinion, is he can kind of dictate the tempo.
Yeah,
if you look at Manu's rapid. So Manu likes to he's a very direct player.
Okay,
Ane's not as fast, very still technical and all that, and he's a lefty and stuff like that. But he slows down the games when he needs to. His soccer IQ is very high, where it's I have 2 players versus 4. I'm not just gonna go down.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to kind of let my team build up and all that.
Okay.
So we were very direct as a team.
Is it because of the guy up top that could just hold it up?
It's that part of it. Part of it is just
somebody special like that.
And on top of that, our other winger, when I'm talking, there's levels to how fast he was so fast.
Yeah.
And it's when you have that kind, when you have those players, and it makes sense to go direct. It makes sense. But at the top of that, it's also the league. Suniac is a very physical league.
Who'd you guys lose to?
We lost to New Pulse.
SUNY, yeah. SUNY New Pulse.
New Pulse.
Yeah.
Didn't play our best game, and if you don't play your best game,
again.
There's
no coach there. I think he's gone. He's gone now, though.
So that was our first loss of the season. We were 12 wins, 1 draw, and that 1 loss.
Okay.
Who else did we lose to?
But in the tournament, in the
tournament, we lost to Dickinson. Dickinson.
Is that Farley Dickinson? Or
I don't know, Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
They must have. The tuition is crazy there. The facilities were nuts.
Really?
But to be fair, the facilities were nuts, but we should have never played on their field. It was a grass field. Grass field in, December or something? Like, it was so bad. It was like, and again, we're not going to blame it. Like, everybody has to play on that.
Big Ten is, too. Like, all their facilities are grass. I'm like, wait a minute. What if you have a game in November and it just snowed?
Yeah.
You got to play on grass and snow. It's terrible.
So that program, oh my God, heads up to whatever that coaching staff is. Because 3 years ago, they were like 2 wins, all losses. Next year, they were like a 6-win team. And then not this year, but the year before, they were like a 10, 11-win team. And then this year, they were fantastic. So it's like that program has been...
Did you guys lose in the Elite 8 or the Sweet 16?
Sweet 16.
Sweet 16. So they made it to the Elite 8.
Yeah.
How'd they do the following? Do you remember?
I don't know.
Did you guys beat Messiah?
No, never played Messiah.
We never played Messiah.
Tufts.
You beat Tufts.
That was the big upset. Is we played a Maine Thomas in the opening 64.
Okay.
We beat them. Then we played Tufts in the 32, and that was the biggest, like, because Tufts was ranked number 2 in the country for Division 3.
Okay.
And then we beat them, and then we went to the Sweet 16, and that's where we lost. And again, the biggest thing is, like, if we lost to Tufts, I feel like it wouldn't have been as bad for the boys, because the boys played fantastic. They played lights out against Tufts.
But when you beat Tufts...
But then we didn't play... We didn't have a great game against Dickinson. And when you don't play your best and you lose, you're like, what happens if we did play our best? What happens if we played like we played Tufts? You know, like, that's where they were, like, upset a little bit. Like, they were happy how far we got, but they were upset with, like, maybe we shouldn't have lost, like, you know. Yeah. So, and again, like, it was so, like, it was underrated. Like, we looked at it, and we knew their offense was going to be very good. They had very good offensive players. But then defensively, it's like, they didn't look that great. Like, they got absolutely possessed in their last game against, I don't know who they played before, but it was like the possession was like 80-20, and they just scored on counters.
Yeah.
And like that was, and again, if they figured out how that's the way they were gonna win, then pros to you. But they just defensively, they didn't look that great, and we're like, all right, so defensively, I think our offense could do some damage against them. Now again, part of it, you know, grass is not great. We don't play on grass, so it's like, you know, grass, when your big thing is like your speed, and you know, that kind of thing is like, it doesn't help. But so the boys lost to them, and that was the feeling. It's like, we didn't play our best game. Happy to be how far we went. Not that. And then Tufts, they played fantastic, and Tufts was so good. Oh my God. Their back line, their offense was like shaky. Like, I don't think their offense was that great, which is kind of crazy to think of for a school like that. That's won the NCAA title so many years. Right. But defensively, their back five were crazy. Internationals, 6'5", 205, like monsters. And so,
did you pick up on any tendencies of like what's the most common formations and tendencies of? Is it the wingback system that everybody's using? Like, what do you guys play?
So we had to switch based on just who we have. Normally, if the coach can pick, he plays like a 4-5-1.
Yep.
Or 4-2-3-1, whatever you want to call it.
All right.
Very similar. But we had 2 strikers. We had 2 guys that we kind of had to play on the field. Yeah. So we played more like a 4-4-2. And to be fair, like, I love it. 4-4-2, your center mids need to be special. If you have 2,
if you're going to be outnumbered at all times,
you need to be special there. So we played more of that. Now, you know, we did have one that kind of like pivoted inside and all that, but it was truly 2 strikers. But if it was his preference, I think he would have gone with a 4-5-1. Right. Which I do like. I call it a 4-5-1 rather than like a 4-3-3 because I want my wingers to understand to come back, not just to stay high. Right. So I want them to kind of understand that. But in theory, defensively 4-5-1, offensively 4-3-3 because the wingers are high up.
What I get scared about in the 4-3-3 is that it ends up becoming a one up top, especially at the younger ages, because they are coming back, and then if that player isn't special at holding up the ball, he or she is going to be an instant turnover, and we're going to turn the ball over. Where if there's 2 up there, well, then they can play. But with your guy up top, I could see how a 4-5-1 would be able to work.
So the biggest thing that we stressed is ball side, that outside back had the freedom to push up.
Yep.
Opposite side, don't. So it's not like we just sent 2 outside backs just going up.
Okay.
It was ball side goes, other outside back really kind of holds.
Kind of comes in and makes
so we always have 3 back. Because again, like the biggest thing is that league isn't a possession-based league. It's a very direct physical league. So once they won the ball, it was like,
yeah, let's go.
Yep. So that's what we played. I saw a lot of 4 in the back, not 3 in the back. I think the only 3 in the back we saw was Oneonta played a 3 in the back kind of system, what it seemed like at least. But where we saw a lot of success is a lot of the times the outside backs just weren't at the level that they like where every player needed to be.
Right.
So we were like, we need to attack the right side. We need to attack the left side. Or we need to let them have the ball and bring it up because both their outside backs push up. So then as soon as that happens, they only have 2 back. So then we can play it into Diego, and Diego then our wingers attack, and we have that kind of system like that. But it was so demanding on our center mids. And to be fair, we had Sam Gregson, so he was a JUCO OCC guy, and he was his first year, guy from Wales. Very good offensive mindset player, very calm, good first touch. And then we had a senior at the beginning of the season from Long Island, Wozniak, David. Very good player, but the biggest thing is he was great at winning the ball back. Yeah. Terrific at winning it when we have the ball. But then his passing percentage, we just would lose it to, like, he was very, again, direct player and stuff like, and he, again, like it's not like he was better than probably a lot of center mids that we played against, but then we had a freshman that really grew in his own. And we had a freshman that, again, physical specimen, but he just was also super calm and composed. Like before the games would meditate, like very like older than what he would, do.
Old soul.
So he was very good. And again, like last game, like Waz scored the winning PK. So it's like it was tough. It was tough for, I think personally, it was probably a little bit tough for him because it was like starting senior. We keep winning. 8 games in, coach switches it. We continue winning. So it's like everything worked. Why switch it? But then it's like we just saw that the passing percentage was just like, and again, it's those little minor details. And I feel like it's tough for a young player to kind of like understand that and then be like, okay, well, I just started playing. It's my senior year, and then now I'm sitting the bench getting 20 minutes a game, and like he probably didn't see it, and it's tough at 18. Well, now what is he? He's probably 21 years old. Like he's still young. Yeah. So it's like it's tough, but.
So what else would you guys track? So you guys would track passing percentage and everything?
If we saw that was like when I would watch the games back and I saw like we lost the ball too many, like what are we doing here wrong in this transition?
Yeah.
And it's like he would, and the worst part is like he would win the ball, lose it off a pass, win it again, and then like make the right pass. Yeah. So like he was so good at winning the ball back.
Right.
But it was just like it would just delay our attack again. It would let the defense get back and then like the transition and all that. So, we saw that, and again, it's tough for a freshman to, start and play and all that. It's not easy too, but he did great, and he wouldn't play as risky of balls. So we wouldn't have always those like, if that ball went in, that was great, but we also didn't need that from that player. Because Sam itself was more of an offensive center mid. Right. So we didn't need the other player also being super offensive. He was more of a kind of a 6, a holding mid. And we needed him to be able to receive the ball and then play a simple pass and then transition. So
what else do you like? I'm fascinated with tracking because there's a picture up there. What, you see all those lines all over that?
The runs?
So no, that's actually passes. That's actually possessions of 3 passes or more, right? Mm-hmm. And so what you see sometimes is the tendency of where are we losing the ball, right? So I picked that up at like B license course or one of the NSCA premier courses or whatever, where if you're an assistant coach, you track all the possessions that we had of 3 passes or more. I did it with the women's national team once, and the entire left side was empty because that player just never got the ball. And it's like, well, this tendency of like, we can't get the ball over there, or they're doing something and we're losing the ball before we get there. And then it just shows all of our tendencies. And I love the tracking of the passes and packing. You know what packing is? So packing, U.S. Soccer did it with the DA a little bit right before it went out, and I don't know if MLS Next does it. So it's all passes forward, and basically you get 1 point for every defender that passes. Yeah. So if it beats 2, you get 2 points, and then they would. Because if you're always going negative, you don't beat any defenders. And so it really shows who are the conservative players and who's trying to take risk and who's successful at being like risky. Yeah. It's just little things like that I think I love that part of analysis.
Well, here's the thing that where like this is the point where even though I love being in charge, this is something that I take and I learned so well. And we would track teams and be like, all right, this team comes late to challenges. So we need to tell the boys, hey, listen, every tackle, they're going to be late. Don't lose your head, all right? We might not get every single call. We're going to get the calls. Yeah. Now, with that being said, though, what I would do for that game and what Coach told me, like it's not something, like we just saw it. We knew it. We talked to the boys about it. But he said that game, he's like, Yohan, what I want you to do is every foul, mark it, who it's on and who the player did it. So at that point, I'd have the book and it'd be like to the ref, I'd be like, dude, Seven has already done 6 fouls on this player. Like it's crazy. Yeah. And just those little things, it's like we have those notes and be like, at this point, it's like, we can't do that. So then the ref would be like he'd be like, this is his 7th, this is his 8th. It's like, all right, yellow card. And be like, now that player can't do that. And if he does do that, then it's like those little things. For Donia, transitions on any set piece, they would be quick. Doesn't matter, throw-ins, all that. Right. So the biggest thing is, he would have, anytime it's a throw-in, anytime it's a set piece, I'd be in charge of just reminding the boys, like, hey, set piece, we got to lock in. Because sometimes when set pieces, players, like, kind of, lock, just,
they kind of relax a little bit. It's like, oh, I get a breather.
And some teams don't take advantage of it, some teams do, but it's like, Fredonia did. So he's like, during this game, what I want you to do, I don't care about the fouls, tell the boys, you're on the sideline, you're screaming at the boys, anytime there's a set piece, hey, who's in a charge, and those kind of simple things. Like, those are the simple things that, like, we saw it in film, and he would be like, hey, I need you to do this on the sideline.
And those little things, think about it. Yeah. Think about how successful you guys were. Those little things is why you guys made it to the Sweet 16.
Yeah. And, like, those are the things that's, like, that's Division 3 level. Like, when you have the personnel and everybody's on the same page and everybody wants to win and all that, and there's no egos and stuff like that, like, you can, like, it works out. So, but, yeah.
Where is he from, the head coach?
Born in Canada. I don't know exactly where.
Okay.
But
is he coaching at Flash right now, or is he just do?
No, he does Buff State. He did do UPS. He did FC Berlin last year.
Okay. On the men's side, right?
Yep. I don't know if he does. He used to work Delaware too, soccer club.
Okay.
But that was done.
And that's how he knows Tom?
I think they played together.
Is Carana still at Delaware? What's he doing now?
I don't know.
He's doing his own thing now?
Yeah, I have no idea. But so I think they played together and then assistant coach together under the Geneseo coach, I want to say.
I think the girls coaches at Flash.
Yeah, so but
and then Nate does too. But dude, I could talk to you forever about soccer, but thanks for like doing this. Yeah. And I mean, so hopefully this gives. I mean, we talked Buff State mostly, but hopefully it is because everybody's like, okay, what's that on the wall? It's like, it's Yohan. Who's Yohan? I'm like, okay, I need to get Yohan in so that everybody knows who Yohan is, and this will go out to all of my parents so that they know it's like, hey, you can't get into me. Maybe you try a Yohan.
Yeah. And then, that was the one thing I think the last time somebody reached out to me and was like, Wednesdays work best for me. And I was like, well, if it's Wednesday, it's Jason. That'll be the person that like works best for you if he's got time to send you in.
Same
like
with
it's like
me on Tuesdays. Yeah. Like if you want me, don't go to Yohan.
Yeah. So it was like that thing is like, and again, like I don't. I can't coach every hour of every day. Like, as much as I love it, like, it's just like, especially like you were saying, like, one-on-ones are demanding because you're the one facilitating the drills and all that.
Absolutely.
And what, like, the biggest thing I do is, like, the younger they are, the less talented they are, the more I end up facilitating and the more I recommend smaller groups.
Yeah.
The more talented they are, then I'm like, bring six.
Maybe we need to sharpen
Bring
it.
six. Yeah. And then I can make 2 groups of 3. They can do the drills. They lock in. I can pinpoint specific little details where they want to look, or like if I see them doing this and I need their body positioning and stuff like that, then I could be like, all right. But like once they're more talented and they could do the drills on their own, then it's like I don't need to be, the older they are, the bigger the groups. The younger they are, the smaller it.
Yep. And
just go from there. But yeah. But again, like we have, like I said, we have our own different style. And like it's good. Like one of the biggest things that I see is like you're juggling.
Yep.
It's like it's the best way to improve your first touch, juggling. Like, and it's like that's something that I remember, and I juggled summer of freshman year into sophomore year.
Yeah.
And my first touch, and on top of that, once you have a better first touch, your confidence.
Absolutely.
It's just you have more time on the ball. And like that was the thing that switched. Like during that summer I would juggle every day.
Yeah.
Just doing it. And it's like it's something that I don't do here.
Right.
And it's something because it's like they can do it on their own. Kids don't do it on their own. So it's like it's those things. It's like it's that give and take. It's like you can juggle on your own. You don't need me to be able to facilitate or do that stuff.
Right.
But if I don't do it with you, are you going to do it?
Right.
So it's like it's like that give and take and all that. And so like you do that a lot, which is like it's so beneficial for players.
And I like the tennis ball and the mini ball. It's like how often, I don't know what's up with my algorithm, but there are Phil Foden videos of him juggling a mini ball with the wall. And it's I get it like all the time, and it's like that's
like you can be a good player without being able to juggle. You're never going to be a great player. Like that's like that. I think I've heard that was a quote I've heard, and it's like
it's
so
true because you see Messi juggling a tennis ball or an orange, and I mean. I could get it.
So like you do that. That's part of your thing, and like for me, what I do a lot is I use the iPad. Yeah. A lot.
You were checking.
Yeah, check the score. It's like that's the biggest thing where like I can simulate to the best. It's not gonna always be 100%, but I can simulate to the best ability. Where it tells them sometimes for whatever drill it is, there's a defender there, or that's where the space is.
Yep.
And like that's the best. And like that's 2 different things where you get from 2 different.
You also do the bands a lot.
Yeah, the resistance band.
That a lot?
Yeah. I love the bands. It's again like first of all working on your balance.
Yep.
And it's for the younger age. What I found is like. They don't have the strength to get a good shot, and especially even older age for their weak foot. The reason you're not getting, for what I find, is the reason you're not being able to hit the ball well with your weak foot is your balance good, because you're not used to just being on your dominant foot balancing. Yeah. So like part of that is that balance. Part of it is you're working on your fine little muscles in your leg and all that with that resistance without putting too much pressure of lifting a weight or stuff like that.
I've never really thought about the balance part.
Yeah. So that's like, those are the little details where, again, like, do I know the exact science and all that behind everything?
Right.
Probably not, but I know a little bit of the thing that it makes sense. That's like, this is, so it's just like, I like it. The players love it. Yeah. So it's like, and at the end, dude, if the players love the training session,
yeah,
they're getting the most. I'll get the most out of a player if they enjoy it. If they don't enjoy the training session, I'm not gonna. Even for my travel practices, if I'm not doing, enjoying this training session, they're just gonna walk through it, and I'm not gonna get the best out of the player.
Do you ever hear from players of like what's going on at their club or whatever, and they say we do the exact same thing every single time? And so I asked a lot of my Clarence players how they like their flash coach and all that.
Right.
And the biggest thing that I've gotten over the years, where some coaches are great, they love it and all that. Right. But sometimes when they don't like it, they're like, I don't like the drills and the coach we do that much, but I love the competition because the talent's higher there. So there's that drawback in here or there. And for me, it's like there's certain drills that I love to do.
Yeah, and you do them a lot.
And I do them a lot. Like there's certain drills like over the river.
Yeah.
Love it. I love that drill. It's just like rondo with three groups, and it's competitive. They love the competitive, and also what it works on. I love that. So I praise. There's certain drills that I praise, and I wish there could be a database where it's like you want to work on possession, first touch, passing, and then you can just look that up, and then
it just shows a little video, because there's plenty of videos. You can Google
Absolutely.
Over the River,
Yeah.
and you can look up for any new coaches that doesn't know. Like, you can look up that,
Right,
and then it tells you. But like, if it was like, hey, I'm looking for a passing pattern that works with 4 defenders, right? Because I'm playing that shape. If there was like then a thing where people could just be like, oh, this is different passing patterns that work with 4 defenders.
right.
I think that'd be the coolest like app that somebody could make or something.
Yeah.
Or like where they could be like, hey, I'm looking for shooting. I have, and then you set your parameters of like 10 to 12 players. All right, shooting 10 to 12 players. This works on like where it's not like just a line shooting or whatever. It works on different little
it's a little sequence and
like, so the players aren't standing still and all that. Like simple things like that, where it's like for any new coaches, because again, like there's, you know, especially town teams, like you're gonna have coaches that are, you know, newer or whatever, and you're gonna have coaches that know how to play soccer and played and are good, but haven't coached that much. So there's sometimes their drills are like a little too stationary.
Yep.
And again, they're a good player. They know what they're talking about. They just don't have those experience of so many drills that they've accumulated over the course of whatever. So they could just look up like a drill like that.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, would be the coolest thing for anybody to do.
There used to be a drill database that was from all over the world. It's all professional clubs, but they would show youth academy teams and whatnot. And it was inside soccer, and you had to pay, and it was excellent. And because you weren't able to plug in the topic and the amount of players, but it would list the topic, and then it would just list, okay, this is a drill with 6 players, this is a drill with 5 players, and stuff. And I wanted to do that for my coaches, for Carissima, because, okay, here's a perfect lesson plan if you have 3 players and they're at this level, and then boom, just go.
And again, like you said, like, is there certain coaches or programs or whatever that do the same thing over and over again? I try to always switch it.
I always try to switch it, because if I do the same thing over and over and over again, not only are the kids going to get bored, I'll get bored. And if I'm bored, I know the kids are bored.
Yeah. So it's, and again, you don't have, like I tend to do 3 to 4 drills per the hour.
See, rondos, I don't count rondos and Over the River, because those are reps based drills that need a lot of reps.
Yeah.
Because rondos, and I've been on this
hundreds of variations too.
Yeah, absolutely. But there was one year, this is probably 14 years ago, I was adamant that from August to June, I'm going to start every single training session with 1 touch rondo. And it was a U11 girls team. And the first session, it was awful. We couldn't get 3 passes, but I'm like, nope, I'm going to stick to it, and we are going to do it. And I never had more than, it was always 7v2. If it was 5v2 at that age, it's awful. Yeah. You have to do 6v1, but in my experience, but it would be like 7v2 and 1 touch, and they'd get 3 passes. But then by June, we were getting 20, 25, 30 passes, and it was 3 times a week, every single time. And I swear, if coaches were to just be that deliberate, even just for 1 year, your team is going to be completely different. And that type of stuff, and any type of rondo, and all the variations, I think you have to do a lot of reps. Yeah. What my players get frustrated with is when they hear, all we do is a 5-minute warm up, a 10-minute passing pattern, and then we just scrimmage for the entire time. Yeah. And it's like they're sick of scrimmaging. Yeah. Remember when you were little and you're like, have little guys in here, and the first thing they ask is, "Can we scrimmage? Can we scrimmage?" By the time you're 14, 15, 16, you don't want to scrimmage anymore. Yeah. You want to train and work on shooting and
So what I tend to do, especially with travel, is I do 3 to 4 drills. First one is possession based. So there's usually no goal, no set. Your goal is to keep possession.
Yep.
Different variation. There's so many different drills. Then it's usually a type of technical passing, dribbling, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
This year especially, I've only done 3 drills just because like I don't want to switch. I don't want to set up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't want to take that time away.
And how long are your sessions? An hour?
An hour.
15?
1 hour.
1 hour at Epic?
1 hour at Epic. So it's quick. It's like in and out. Boom.
Yeah.
So it's usually like 10 to 15 minutes on the first one. Probably around 10 minutes for the second one.
Yep.
And then after that, we do some type of scrimmage with rules.
Yeah.
And again, like you said, like it's not 45 minutes of scrimmaging. It tends to be like 25 minutes of a scrimmage at the end. Or, right, if it's not a scrimmage, then it ends up being possession, technical, finishing. And like those are usually the way like I set up. Again, unless we have the full field and I want to talk about. But again, I hate just talking. Like I hate talking and explaining and all that. And so it's easier outdoor, because outdoor I could be like, we're gonna go for 2 hours. I'm gonna talk for 30 minutes. You guys are we're gonna talk through it, work something out. And at U16 now, it's like we can back and forth have a dialogue, be like, hey, this is what we're looking for, and then the coach would be like, well, we have a lot, we're good at doing this, so can we maximize this? And so like that's back and forth, where it's not like I'm a dictator and it's like whatever I say goes.
Right.
Like it's like you have to have some flexibility with your players and all that. But for private, again, it's usually four what's called drills. The first one is most of the time a technical passing drill.
Yeah.
The next one, I try to do dribbling. I try to get to a lot of touches, moving and all that. The next one is a combination of either of those two with finishing. Okay. And then the next one is really focused on finishing. Whether that be just like touch, shoot, or like something like kind of
pings and stuff.
Like I tend to do that. That tends to be like my setting. And again, it changes based on if I have first of all either a parent that wants to focus on this thing, either a player wants to focus on, hey, I'm a defender, I want to work on that. So then I have then it's more oriented towards that way. But if I have the freedom to like kind of plan like that, then it's those kind of things. So
it's awesome. Yeah. What's your favorite right now? Like, what is your thing right now? So, like, when I started PlayMaker, I knew that at that time I was 30, and I knew this is what I want to do, because I did, I've done the college assisting thing, and I was at an ECNL and DEA club at that time, and then I was with the Flash Pros for the 1 year, and I just realized I want to do the youth stuff. I want to own my own training company and just go from there. Like, do you know yet?
I don't know.
Or you're still trying to
because I don't
learn
think
it.
If you tell me, hey, you can do private for the rest of your life, I don't know if I'd want to give up the coaching, the travel.
Yeah.
And they said, well, now you don't have to do private, but you can just coach team for the like that.
Right.
That could be your thing. And I don't know if I'd want to like I like like I said, going 3 to 6 private and then 7 to 9
because you get all the different
because
spectrums.
then I get it all and stuff like that.
In the team building and the individual aspect.
My most favorite thing with private is taking a good player and getting them to that like next level. So like for instance, the best thing is like taking like a travel player and getting them good enough that they can make their ECNL team if they want to.
Do you train? Okay, so you have 2 teams at Clarence.
Yep.
Do you train any of those players in here?
So my older boys do a lot of clinics.
Okay.
Like those pickup clinics or shooting clinics a lot of the time.
Okay.
During the summer, I'll have them a little bit more during the like private. They'll do once a week or maybe twice a week. Some of them, not all of them, right? And like it's not like I rarely promote it to my teams that they like. It's not like I'm not like that.
Yeah, because when back in Michigan, when I would do this, and when I would have it on the side, but I was still coaching teams. The players that didn't come. How do I word this? The players that didn't come. Well, let's talk about the players that did. The players that did do the extra training, they got better quicker. And they kind of like separated themselves. Why? I have no idea. And these 5 went on to be way better players and actually ended up going to a better club, an ECNL club. I got attacked for having favorites because they came to my private training in addition to our club training. And I'm like, sure, you can look at it that way, but they also got a lot better.
Yeah,
they got a lot better, a lot quicker because they were putting in extra hours. And even if it wasn't with me, they were going to it's called next level training, and this guy has 8 locations and he's massive. But if it wasn't me, they were going and seeking other opportunities, or they were training with older teams, and they just got better. I don't have favorites, and so like if anybody that's listening to this, the tens and tens of people that are going to listen to this, like if you're doing stuff on the side or starting your own training company and still teams, I just guard against that because that's a pain because other parents are going to attack you like, well, you're only playing Rachel because they pay you on the side for private training. It's like, okay, look at the team. How good is Rachel? Well, she's in the top 3 of the team. I'm like, probably that's why she's playing more than your kid who's number 16. But that's
and again that's where, like I said, like the parents on my travel team for all 4 teams that I've had have been fantastic.
Yeah.
Like I know you hear parents here and there on certain teams that are like rough, but it's like I can't say that I've had that. I had no problem. Yeah. And like against, and it's tough. The U16 and all that, it's tougher because some parents, like some people, just are getting less playing time. And you didn't come to watch another kid play, like, and you want your kid to play, you want your kid to have fun and all of that. But like I've been so fortunate, and again, like I've been super upfront with every player. Like, and the biggest thing I'll promote before even coming to me, if you want extra, the club does a great thing. Like, reach out to the older team, reach out to another team, do that. Yep. Do those first. Do it where you can maximize it for free. Yep. Always do that. Right? You're already paying whatever the club dues, which to be fair for Clarence is super cheap for what they receive. Yes. Their Clarence offers such a good that. So they offer that. Maximize it what you get from Clarence. All right. If you don't even personally, you could probably train almost every day and not be a dual card player. And I'm sure that's probably the same case with Amherst, Kenmore, all those town teams. If you really just you don't have the money to go play ECNL and stuff like that. Yeah. If you could, I'm sure you can ask your town team, be like, hey, do you mind if I train with this coach? And do you mind if I do that? Like, I'm sure the coaches won't have a problem with it. Yep. And especially, I 100% bet during the summer months, they would welcome it. Yeah. Because the worst thing is rolling up to the field with 11 players on a full soccer field and being like, well, we're very limited to what we could do. Right. Like, at that point, your lowest number you want is probably like 15 for a training session, honestly. Yeah. Like, you can do other stuff, and I've run training sessions full hour with 4 players. I'm like, let's do a lot of technical stuff. We'll maximize it. We'll last the last 15 minutes on some fun shooting stuff, but like, let's put in the work on what we get. Right. That's why I rarely cancel my practices, even if I have like 4 players. And I think the best thing that parents haven't been like, oh, you're gonna favorite like the private kids, is the fact that I wanted, like I said, I didn't want to take another team. I wanted to do way more with the 2 teams I've had. Smart. So like, I was running 3 practices a week last year when they were a red team. Yeah. Like, and it's not easy for every coach. Like, some coaches are parents, some coaches they like, it's great. Like, you can't expect that of every single coach in the club.
I knew a coach that was doing stuff on the side and had 2 or 3 teams and did invite only off of the 3 teams and did invite-only sessions. That caused real problems. Yeah. But when you said about the 4 run-in sessions with 4 players, not all coaches are capable of coming up with things to do in small groups. Some coaches are – a lot of coaches It's funny when you sublet in here and then you watch what other coaches do in here. It's like they don't know how to utilize the space yet. Because I think it takes some time to get used to being in there.
Yeah.
So.
But, yeah, no, that's the biggest thing. And then, but there's some coaches that even do more than me. Like, there's the, what's it called? Brian Rademacher. He coaches the girls' black team, the younger team.
Uh-huh.
Last year,
didn't they go to
he did the Pittsburgh in like August.
Yes.
And then he started, I think he started training, he kept training like later in the summer.
Yeah.
Like those girls, that group is getting
nonstop.
The best possible thing. And like, he's a parent, like it's like he does. Even I'm like,
he's a good dude.
In August, let me have a little bit of time.
I know.
So
it's funny.
So even like there's, and that's the difference between like town teams is like, can you get coaches that
want to do that
and are high enough like level in soccer IQ to do it, I guess. Because like I said, like if you look at another town team that I think does a very good job, Kenmore.
Yeah.
Kenmore always gives us competition in every thing. Other teams have good teams. Like OP has a good team here and there for a different age group.
Mm-hmm.
Lancaster has some good teams here and there. Amherst, they have that Rangers team that's
Lockport,
very, very good. Like they all have some good teams. Clarence, tends to be just because of the amount of good teams.
Yeah.
But Kenmore is close. Kenmore is very close on that.
Do you know how many teams Kenmore has?
No idea, but all their teams I play are usually
pretty good.
So, I props to all those guys over there.
Thanks for doing this, dude.
Well, it's a pleasure.
2 hours.
Yeah. Oh. So, hey, the big question now, right?
What's that?
Chiefs Eagles.
I haven't really thought about that game yet, but Eagles are going to be tough. Saquon's going to be tough, but I think we have the better quarterback.
You have the better quarterback, the better coaches.
Head and the coaching
head
staff.
And defensive coach. But that's like if you think about it, that's it. Like pre-injury for Isaiah Pachenko, he was a dog, but
he hasn't been the same.
I know he hasn't been the same.
And Saquon is just on a different
unreal.
Planet.
The wide receivers.
You might as well play different. Oh yeah, they have us on that.
AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, easy. Tight end.
Let's call it a wash. Goddard's good though.
Yeah.
Kelsey didn't do anything against the Bills.
And then you have the quarterback, but
we got the quarterback, and that's it.
They have the O line, they have the D line.
I think our offensive line interior is very good. Our tackles are terrible, and our left tackle isn't even a tackle; he's a guard. So. D-line, we have Jones, but then they have more quality across. So everything should lead to the Eagles.
But the big factor is, like, you got a coach and you got a quarterback.
Quarterback, and according to everybody, we have the refs, too. So, God. So, I don't know. I think the Chiefs will pull it off, but it's just because I'm biased.
Yeah.
So, it should be good. I'm sick of the Eagles, but like everybody's sick of the Chiefs. So.
Yeah, you're not gonna get easy on that.
No. So but dude, I don't know.
That should be fun.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
brother. Thank you.
I hate soccer.